Halloween Eve and time kind of got away from me this month. I'd made the patchwork witch hat, which unfortunately was a bit of a black hole project. It took much longer than I thought it was, mainly because of all the stitch work that needed to be done on the seams. And then I decided I had a choice between two projects. Either make a sort of everyday fantasy outfit or knit a sweater. And I thought knitting the sweater would be faster. And apparently I overestimated my skills or underestimated the amount of time that I was going to need. But I'm still working on the sweater. More on that later. And time has just kind of gotten away from me. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to make a stew because it's mid-fall and getting kind of chilly outside, and having something that's nice and hearty to eat for dinner is great. I'm going to possibly carve a foam pumpkin because arthritis has been kicking my butt, and carving organic pumpkins can be actually quite hard on my hands. And with a foam pumpkin, I can use it year after year. I've got a couple of Christopher Lee as Dracula, because I'd made my parents a pumpkin a few years back and it was in the basement when we moved in. And I've also got an Edgar Allan Poe. It'd be kind of nice to have a little bit of variety. So I will probably be hitting up some of the patterns that I picked up from zombiepumpkins.com a few years ago, not sponsored. And I'll see about making something from one of the foam pumpkins I've had in my stash for a couple of years. I've been meaning to actually do a video on that for a while, so we'll probably get into that sometime today if we've got the time. And if I've got the time to do it, I think I'm going to do some spinning, because I've got some singles that have been resting for about 2 years now since I did one of my last spinning videos or spinning live streams, and I think they've rested on the bobbins long enough to be able to spin into an actual yarn. So at very least I'll ply that up, because I want to do a little bit more spinning. I'm trying to think of some things I can do that don't take as much time and are fun to do. And I know that some of my viewers have really enjoyed seeing how that yarn comes together and kind of the hypnotic way that it spins up. So I'm going to try clearing my e-wheel so that I can do a little bit of that. I've got a couple of projects in mind and an actual long opinion script that can go with it, which for some reason you guys seem to like those long opinion scripted things. It makes me kind of wondering if I should be pivoting into Tiffany Ferg territory instead of being this sort of millennial way of looking at the world, the sort of Gen X version of how to look at the world. I don't know. Either way, I've got a few things I want to get done today, and the first thing is going to be the stew. Technically a soup, but stew. Now this is Mulligatawny soup mix from Mitchell Soup Company. If I recall correctly, and this is something that I heard in another video, so I could be totally wrong, the lady who started Mitchell's, apparently it's a family business, was prepping for Y2K. And if you're one of my normal viewers, you're probably somewhere in that age 45 to 65 plus range. So you may actually remember Y2K, when we were all scared that a decimal in the wrong place was going to end the world. So people were prepping for disaster, and apparently the founder of Mitchell's was one of them, who I gather was putting together these little kits of things like rice and spices and lentils and nuts into things like mason jars. And now they're being sold in cute little tubes with twine at my local co-op store. And so I've discovered these, I think, last week and made a, I think, coconut dal. This is mulligatawny soup. It's going to want some chopped carrots, some chopped celery stalks, and then about 20 minutes before serving, add in 2 cups of chopped tart apple. It's saying about 10 to 12 cups of water, but I don't know whether my electric cauldron over here is going to be able to take that. We'll see. It might wind up being only about 5 cups, in which case it'll be more stew than soup, but that's fine. I'm not going to pan fry my chicken cubes. They'll do just fine in the crock pot. They'll cook all the way through, no problem. And yeah, we'll see how that tastes this evening. Probably going to taste really good. The one thing I've noticed about this is they seem to be a little bland when it comes to salt and pepper, and that's fine. I grew up in a family that cooked low sodium because I had a grandparent with heart problems. So low sodium's fine by me. Salt and pepper sit on the table and can be used if necessary. The coconut dal that we had last week was a little bland that way, but if you added just a little bit of salt, just livened things up. So we'll see how this tastes. Should be good. A nice hearty soup or stew in the midsection of fall usually lands really well. I've been looking for cozy things like this for the past couple of weeks now, heavily relying on soups and stews. And I think I'm going to need to pick up either more mason jars or other plastic things that can be tucked into the freezer and taken out when you want to have a lunch or something like that, because these things freeze up really well. Soups and stews are perfect for that in fall. So if you need to take a lunch along with you to work and you want to have something a little bit more hearty than just a sandwich, take a bowl of chili. Stick it in the microwave. Just don't do it with fish. Fish in the microwave does not work out well. Nope. Anyhow, onto this before the chicken gets too warm or the cats decide to start playing with knives. Apparently the moment you put 2 foam pumpkins and a hot knife on the table is exactly when the cats decide that they want to be there. I have narrowed it down to 2 pumpkin designs. We've got a cat and a jack-o'-lantern. I'm thinking this one will probably fit nicely on this little guy here. The cat will fit nicely on this big fella. I will grab some tape and a pair of scissors and get to fitting them onto the pumpkins. The hot knife, I feel a little nervous using around the cats. The reason why I'm doing it here in dining room is because this room actually has quite a lot of ventilation. If I need to, I can open the front door and let some of the air go out the screen. I don't happen to have a respirator mask that would allow me to do this work. So I'm going to be, trying not to breathe in any kind of toxic fumes. But this is something I've done a few times before, so I'm not too terribly worried about it. If I have to, I'll put the cats out in the sunroom. The sun's still up, so they can find a sunbeam to keep warm. It's about 8 to 10 degrees Celsius out there, so I'm not too worried about them getting chilly, but I am more worried about them getting burnt by the hot knife, because cats is cats and they like to be everywhere all over. I've tried to find designs that are relatively simple shapes so that I'm not having to do a whole bunch of tiny spiky designs. It smells fantastic, by the way. I'm beginning to think that that's the difference between a stew and a soup. A soup has more water, and a stew has less water. Possibly more vegetables, though there are plenty of vegetables. Put the cats out, don't want anybody getting burnt by this except possibly me if it, is necessary. Part of the trick to this is finding a way to get things to lie down on the pumpkin, and for that you sometimes have to cut into the pattern a little bit just to make it smooth over the surface of the pumpkin. Now, where do I want to put this? This looks like the best face. I think I want that nose about here. Highest part. There. There. And all I'm trying to do is get this paper to stick down in such a way that the pattern looks good. It's fairly clear, and that it'll transfer nicely to the pumpkin itself. And you can use the same kind of steps to work on an organic pumpkin. It doesn't have to be specific to a foam pumpkin at all. That needs to be finessed a little. No. There we go. I try to cut fairly near to the design without cutting through it, mostly so that I have a little bit of room to move around. So, cut into there. We'll cut in near these whiskers. I'm going to cut in near the mouth. Check and see if that'll lie nice and straight. The trick is to get the pattern to lie relatively straight so you can transfer it on easily. Now I'm going to take my handy pin and I'm just going to punch out a nice outline so that I can then connect the dots with my pen and then follow that line with the hot knife. took a while to get all of the detritus from the pumpkins cleaned up, and I'm hoping I got all of it, because that's the last thing I need is a cat running by with a piece of foam pumpkin in her mouth. Yeah, that would be a horror story right there, I think. As you can probably tell from the change of light, some time has passed. It's only been a couple of hours because I had to go pick up the husbeast from work, run some errands, that sort of thing. But it is getting late enough that I don't think I'm going to get around to spinning today. I think that's something that I might do tomorrow while I'm waiting for trick-or-treaters. That said, I think that working on the pumpkins today really did help give me a bit of a break and give me a little bit more enthusiasm for working on the sweater. So I think what I'll probably do tonight is get cozy on the sofa, over that way, put on something on TV or on YouTube, and just work on the sweater, because every little stitch counts in getting this thing done. I'd show you more of the sweater, but I don't want to give everything away quite yet. We'll see. We'll see what happens when I start instituting more of a showing the progress rather than just saving up everything and doing everything all at once. Who knows? Maybe next week you'll see more progress shots. That said, it does look like it is growing quite nicely. One of the things that Canadian knitter and author, the Yarn Harlot, Stephanie Pearl McPhee, has often said is that yarn, or at least sweaters, projects, whatever, tend to grow when you're not looking at them. So you can use your tape measure and measure out the area that you're trying to get the length of, and it will feel like it's just not getting anywhere. It's not getting any longer. And then you come back the next day and everything's grown by about 2 inches. And that seems to be where I am right now. But the thing is that I put it down, I worked on something else this afternoon, and now it feels a little bit more substantial, and that's important. As they say, like, comment, subscribe if you're not already. I think there's also this new hype function that you can try out. Many thanks to my patrons and channel members for all of their assistance, because they definitely make doing everything like this a little bit simpler, a little bit easier. But yeah, that's where I am right now. I think it's where I'm going to leave things for today. Probably get this video uploaded and see how things go. I hope everybody has or had a happy Halloween, happy Samhain, and we'll probably see you next time. Anyhow, I am going to go make some hot chocolate, sit on the sofa, and I think just do some relaxing knitting.